Hi students, how are you? I am Sakriya from Navajivan Mission School, Devriya. I am PGT Economics and today we are going to discuss the first unit of economics. So just like plus 1, in 12th class also you have this economics is divided into two paper. First one it is introductory macroeconomics and the second one it is Indian economic development. So in plus 1 we studied economics as introductory microeconomics and statistics for economics. So here that is introductory macroeconomics and Indian economic development. Okay, so here Indian economic development it is purely theory based paper, whereas introductory macroeconomics it is the combination of both theory as well as some numerical also. So let us start the first chapter of macroeconomics, that is Introduction to Macroeconomics. So what is economics? Economics is not a new subject for you. So we know that economics is a social science which deals with production, distribution, consumption of goods and services. So three things we are detailedly discussing in economics. First one that is production of goods and services, second one it is consumption of goods and services, and the third one it is distribution of goods and services. And again we know that economics is subject matter of economics is divided into two. First one it is microeconomics and the second one it is macroeconomics. So what is microeconomics and what is macroeconomics? Microeconomics you already studied. So what is microeconomics? Microeconomics deals with the economic problem at micro level. Then you can understand, you can easily define macroeconomics. So macroeconomics it is deals with the economic problem at macro level. Macro level means here we will discuss economic problem of whole economy. So in microeconomics we studied about theory of a consumer behavior, theory of a producer, theory of a market. Okay, so consumer demand we discussed, then utility function of a consumer we discussed, then production function of a consumer we discussed. But in macroeconomics we will discuss about an economy, how the economy will operate. Okay, so first topic it is difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So you know the difference is in microeconomics we are discussing the economic problem at micro level, whereas in macroeconomics we will discuss this economic problem at macro level. So coming to the scope of macroeconomics. So scope of macroeconomics means subject matter of macroeconomics. What are the topics covered under macroeconomics? So first one it is estimation of national income and related aggregates. So here is national income means income of a nation. Got it? So how we can estimate or how we can calculate national income and the relative aggregates. And the second one it is theory of employment. Second topic is covered under macroeconomics, that is theory of employment and theory of unemployment. How equilibrium level of employment will determine in an economy, that we will discuss. Next one, theory of money. So money, what is money? Money is anything which a state declared as money is money. Okay, so how the money will circulate in an economy, then what are the components of money supply, then demand, what is demand for money. These are the topics covered under theory of money. Next one that is a role of government or government budget. For what purpose government is preparing budget and what are the objectives of government budget, these topics will cover under role of government or government budget. And the last one it is exchange rate and balance of payment. So exchange rate, I think it is not a new word for you. Exchange rate means the rate of one currency in terms of another currency. For example, $1 is equal to rupees 70. That means here dollar is expressed in terms of rupee. So for getting $1 we need to pay 70 rupees. Otherwise for getting 70 rupees, American need to pay $1. So it is the rate of one currency in terms of other currency. Then after that we will discuss about balance of payment. So these are the important topics covered under macroeconomics. First one, that is estimation of national income and related aggregate. Second one, theory of employment. Third one, theory of money. Then fourth one, government budget. And fifth one, exchange rate and balance of payment. So this is an introduction to macroeconomics. So coming to our next topic, that is basic concept used in macroeconomics. So under this topic we will discuss about some basic concepts which are regularly used or commonly used in macroeconomics. So first concept, that is types of goods. So in an economy we can see the producers are producing different varieties of goods. For example, shirt, chalk, specs, then rice, etc. So here we are going to classify these goods into different categories. So first type of classification, it is consumption goods and capital goods. So here goods are going to classify into different categories. First base of classification it is, or first type of classification it is consumption goods or consumer goods, both are same, and capital goods. So what is consumption goods or consumer goods and what is capital goods? From the word itself we can easily understand what is consumption goods. So consumption goods are the goods which are demanded by the consumer for satisfying their wants. For example, ice cream. If an individual A, he is purchasing an ice cream for consuming himself, then that is known as consumer goods. So consumer goods or consumption good, these are the goods which satisfy human wants directly and it is demanded by the consumer. Okay, and here again this consumption goods is classified into 5 types. First one, it is durable consumer goods. Second one, it is semi-durable consumer goods. Third one, it is non-durable consumer goods. And fourth one, it is non-material goods or services. So consumer goods are those goods which is consumed or demanded by the consumer for what purpose? For satisfying their wants or for satisfying their needs. And this consumer goods again classified into 4 types. First one, it is durable goods. Second one, semi-durable goods. Third one, non-durable goods. And fourth one, it is non-material goods. Otherwise it is also known as services. Then what is the difference between these consumer goods? First one, durable goods. What is durable goods? So durable goods is a consumer goods which the consumer can use for several years. For example, car. If a consumer purchases a car today, he will not purchase another car tomorrow, because this car he can use for several years. So this type of commodities or consumer good is known as durable goods. Another example, television, TV. So if a consumer purchases television today, he may not or he will not purchase television tomorrow, because he can use this television for several years. The next one, mobile phone, then computers, etc. So these are the example for durable good. So what is the definition of durable goods? It is a consumer good which the consumer can use for several years, more than 1 year. Okay, next one, semi-durable goods. Semi-durable goods means the goods which the consumer can use for 1 year or less than 1 year. For example, shirt. If we purchase a shirt, we can use for 6 months, sometime we can use for 1 year also. Okay, so that type of good is known as semi-durable good, which the consumer can use for 1 year or less than 1 year. Next one, that is non-durable goods. So non-durable goods are those consumer goods which are used up in a single act of consumption. So that means we are using this type of goods only once. For example, all the food items comes under non-durable goods. That means after the consumption of that food, it should be exhausted. So for consuming one more food, we need to purchase another one. Okay, so that type of good is known as non-durable good. And fourth one, it is non-material goods or services. So non-material goods are non-material good which satisfy human wants. So it is non-material. We cannot see that type of good. We can, in simply it is known as services. For example, services of a teacher, services of a doctor, etc. So these are the types of consumer goods. Once again, durable goods, the goods which we can use for several years. Second one, that is semi-durable goods, which the goods which we can use for at least 1 year. Next one, non-durable goods, that is it ends or it will exhaust by a single act of consumption. Next one, non-material goods or services. So example for durable goods, that is car, television, etc. Semi-durable goods, they are shirt, then electronic items, etc. Non-durable goods, that is food, all the food item will comes under non-durable goods. Next one, services, that is services of a doctor, engineer, then teacher, etc. So that is the first type of classification. And the second one, it is capital goods. From the word itself we can understand capital goods. Capital, what is capital? It is a man-made instrument used in production. So in accountancy you may study it. So what is capital goods? In simply, capital goods are fixed asset used in the process of production and which has higher value. This capital good has higher value. So capital goods are fixed assets used in the process of production which have highest or higher value. For example, plant and machinery. Okay, so that is the first way of classification of good. It is, they are consumer goods and capital goods. In another way, we can classify these goods as final goods and intermediary goods. Final goods and intermediary goods. So what is final goods and what is intermediary goods? So final goods, firstly we can discuss final goods. So final goods are those goods which are crossed the boundary line of production and they are ready for their final users. So two conditions should be satisfied for a final good. First one, the good should cross the boundary line of production. You know that production has different stages. So if a product cross all these stages and if the product is ready for their final consumers, then that product is known as final goods. So then next question, who is final users? Who is final users? So final users are classified into two. First one, it is consumer and the second one, it is producers. So in simply, these final goods are demanded by two people, two category of people. First one, that is consumer and the second one, it is producer. So we can classify these final goods into two types based on the demand. For first one, that is consumer is demanding some final good. So that final good is known as final consumer goods. Got it? So final goods, the goods which are crossed the boundary line of production and they are ready for their final users. Okay, so these final users are two types. First one, consumer, and the second one, producer. So the consumers are demanding final good. So that final good is known as final consumer goods. And for purchasing this final consumer good, consumer is spending some money. Is it not? So that expenditure is known as consumption expenditure, because consumers are demanding this consumer good or final consumer good for consumption purpose. So that expenditure is known as consumption expenditure. Like that, producers also demanding final goods for what purpose? For production purpose. For example, machinery, it is a final good, and it is someone individual, he is a producer, he need a machinery for his factory, and if he demand that machinery, then it will become a final producer goods. Is it not? So if he is spending some money for purchasing that machinery, so that money is known as investment expenditure. That expenditure is known as investment expenditure. So final goods are two types. First one, final consumer goods, which are demanded by the consumer, and the second one, that is final producer good, which is demanded by producer. So in short, the total expenditure on this final good. Final goods are two types, is it not? Final consumer good and final producer good. So the expenditure incurred on this final consumer good is known as consumption expenditure. Expenditure incurred on final producer good is known as investment expenditure. So if we add these two, then what we will get? Expenditure on final good. So expenditure on final good is equal to consumption expenditure and investment expenditure. Understood? Now we are going to discuss detailedly about this consumption expenditure. What is consumption expenditure? It is expenditure made by consumers on final goods. So next question, who is consumer? Who is consumer? So in economics, consumers are three types. First one, household. Household means normal individual. Second one, that is government. And the third one, that is non-profit private institution. So first one, that is household. That means normal individual. For what purpose they are demanding this consumer good, final consumer good? For satisfying their needs or for satisfying their wants. Next one, that is government. For what purpose government is purchasing these final goods? Suppose for example, now in India we are facing COVID-19. COVID-19, coronavirus disease 2019, and now we are in lockdown period and government is providing free food through public distribution system. From where government is getting this food item? Because government is purchased this food item from market or from agricultural workers. Okay, so there government is purchased some final good. So government also a final consumer. Next one, non-profit private institution. Non-profit private institution means the institution or private institution which is running for charity purpose. For example, NGO, non-government organization. Next one, temple. Next one, church. Next one, mosque, etc. So these are the example for non-profit private institution, and they are demanding these final goods for charity purpose. So in simply, total consumption expenditure is equal to consumption expenditure made by household. Consumption expenditure made by household plus consumption expenditure made by government. Consumption expenditure made by government and consumption expenditure made by non-profit private institution. Understood? That is consumption expenditure. Here one of the important component of final good expenditure, that is consumption expenditure, and this consumption expenditure we are detailedly discussing here. In economics there are three type of consumers are there. First one household, second one government, and third one non-profit private institution. And these three people or these three types of consumers, they are demanding this final good. So total consumption expenditure is equal to consumption expenditure of all these three organization or institution. That is consumption expenditure made by household, consumption expenditure made by government, and consumption expenditure made by non-profit private institution. Next one, that is